Now to get at what we're working on today, we're gonna have to take these tires off. So before we jack up the car, what we want to do is loosen these lug bolts. Once you get the wheels off the ground, it's much harder to take the lug bolts off because as you loosen the bolts, the wheel just wants to spin. So before we get this jacked up, we're going to loosen all these lug nuts just a little bit. We'll do the same thing on the other side, then we'll jack it up and take the tire the rest of the way off. Alright, now that we've got the lug nuts loosened on each of the tires, we're going to start by jack up the car. There's a cross member just behind this front bumper that I'm going to line up my jack with so I can lift up the front of the car. And then once I have the front of the car in the air, I can sneak my jack stands underneath the sides. There's two frame rails that go just all along the length of the car, and I can put those jack stands just under the back of the tires. That's going to give me plenty of room to work on the suspension components I'm working on today without the jack stands being in the way. It's one of the things you want to think about when you're jacking up your vehicle. You want to think about safety and you want to think about your working envelope, making sure you have enough room around you to work on the car, but at the same time make sure that your car is jacked up safely. So to do that today, we're going to jack it up on the cross member, put the jack stands under the frame rails, and then also put the tires under the frame rails. That way if something does fall, the car rocks off the jack stand somehow, it doesn't land directly on me or the ground. It first lands on those tires and I have enough room to wiggle out or get help. Alright, let's get this thing jacked up. And now that we got the tires off the ground, we can sneak these jack stands in. Alright, that one looks good. Let's go to the other side. Alright, so now that we've got these tires off the ground, I'm going to go ahead and take this tire off before I let the jack down and put the weight of the car on the jack stands. The reason I do this is because oftentimes I'm at full extension right now of my suspension, but oftentimes to get your car, especially if it's a big car like this, to get the tires all the way off the ground, you've got this thing jacked up pretty high in the air. Much higher than you might actually need. So I'm going to take the tires off now, slip them under the cross member that we're currently jacking up the vehicle on, and then relax the weight of the jack back onto the jack stands. Even after that, I'm still going to use the jack to hold lightly the front cross member. So even though the weight's going to be on the jack stands back here on the frame rails, I'm still going to have the jack under the cross member once again in case something happens. That way the jack catches the weight before the whole truck falls. Alright, let's take this tire off. I will slide this tire off. And put it under the... Alright. There we go. We'll go do the same thing on the other side, and then we'll get to work. Okay, we got everything set up. We're on the jack stands. Let's let this thing down slowly. Okay, we've let it down. And like I said, we'll jack it back up so that this jack is just barely supporting that front, there we go, that front cross member. All right, let's get to work.